How can something as beautiful as this be dying? A plague is ruining the land, but the tree of life still stands. Question is, for how long? End is coming to the new world. The tribes stand divided, in need of someone strong enough to unite them, or bring them all down. This is a story with an unusual beginning. So, let's expect an unusual end. Here's somebody with a troubled past, drawn into the spotlight of a story that's already begun. We're already at a crossroads. Choosing a path in life is that fork in the road where you make a choice or simply stop living. But for you, it's not only a crossroad, but a choice. A reflection of your ki, the primal energy that flows through everything.
Allow me to introduce myself. I'm the dark side of you, your inner voice to be precise, an echo of the balance and consequence of your actions as you move forward.
So glad you realize who you really are. Let's keep to the bright and better path moving on.
You can't contradict yourself like that. You made the right choice to begin with. Why would you change your mind?
Because you can't deny what's deep within your heart. Sometimes a thought is just a thought. In the end, it's the way you act that counts.
But remember, this is just the beginning of the end. Eventually, it'll be my way or the highway.
Right is always right. Stories of death and the bodies left behind, a reminder that we're at the mercy of nature and the one that preys on others. Do you remember the beast that shattered your family, or did you choose to forget? You turned your back on our world and got lost in your own. Meanwhile, the predator only grew stronger.
No!
You better make a run for it. This is not the time nor place to end this story. This time, it was best to run and live to fight another day. Let us hope you're ready for it when it comes. The predator isn't the only threat. The wildlife started to mutate when the end of days began, and the tree of life started to die. The oil sludges everywhere. To most, it only means death, but some have adapted to the new environment and changed with it. Evolution has its ways. White gun. Stay on target. Took care of it. Got more than a flesh wound. Look, an emergency box from the once was. A rare sight. That pipe looks weak. The claw bar should come in handy. Whoa! It's time to find a way out of this place. No, really, I mean it. The Morks produce biomatter in their multi-organ that they shed under distress. Blobs that affect the cellular coding strands of any living being when absorbed, including you. Head on. A ladder would be better. Toxanol built vessels called arks to save themselves from the impending doom. But was it too late? It is only from the flight logs of the single ark they left behind that we know other arks travelled through the sky and beyond. It seems those that came before us never lost hope in finding a new home for their kind. There are few records of the chain of events that led to the big apocalypse eons ago, but it's clear the world wasn't prepared for how recklessly the Toxanol Corporation would make its mark on the world. Their rare earth mining and nuclear industries generated tons of waste, and, without consideration for the future, they dumped it all in landfills until they ran out of space. That's when they made the big mistake. They began dumping the toxic waste in the surf just off the coast instead, assuming that it would sink and decay with time. And they were right. But no one was prepared for what was about to unfold. Once in the surf, the radiation interfered with the genetics of the wildlife and created bizarre mutations in their offspring. It had an inconceivable impact on biodiversity and the entire ecosystem. The world as they knew it crumbled as nature retaliated. It would never be the same again, and what remained of it became ours. The sound of spark metal going pew-pew is never a good thing. It's coming from behind that door. A warning label. The box looks like a potential brain melt. It's going to take a bit of puzzling to short-circuit the door. Just a few moves left. Make them count. There you go. The wheeled one is outnumbered. You'd better help him out. Shot through. That's the last of them. Let's talk to the wheeled one before backup arrives. He wants to thank you for taking his side against the scavengers. He sounds familiar. You just can't figure out why. He presents himself as out of date. He knows he's way overdue, but he hasn't given up. He doesn't seem surprised that you don't recognize him. You were just a child back then, the night everything changed. There have been rumors of a one-eyed Ronin seen outside the Great Wall, and he's happy to see it's true. The legend of the one-eyed child that grew up as an outcast is old and sad. The child could have been anyone, but the evil it had fled had left a mark, a facial scar to remember the past. It's a scar you're covering under that eye patch, isn't it? But he would have recognized you anyways. You look exactly like your Muma. There's no doubt you're the child, and that what Lupa Lupin did to your village, your Muma and Popsy, was the beginning of the end. He says it has taken you a long time to bring the past back up to the present, to find your way back, but he's grateful you have. It was after the attack that the unity fell apart. Your Muma's disciples divided and formed tribes as a reaction to the blight that had fallen upon the land. The impending threat of the World Eaters bringing down the Tree of Life is ever so close. He also worries about the Jagni tribe that's actively working for a doomsday and purging of the world. Had it not been for the Tree of Life, no one would have survived. He hopes you at least remember the tree. Asks if you are tired, as it's a bit of a hike here from the village. He wonders if your Mooma knows you are here. You're such a good child, so you probably did. Even the young forget. He understands why you came all the way out here, to see them, the potato people. The potato people, or Nono, are a wonder, somehow interlinked with this little tree here fueling its source of life. You might be right. Like potatoes, they're packed with energy, an excellent source of ki. The Nono prefer to hide in glitter grass. He says you should get over there and ruffle it. See if you can make one come out of hiding. You've found one. You should be proud. They don't come out for everyone. The Nono's ki energy is just what the Pensai needs to complete its cycle and grow into a tree of life. Only time will tell. At least his intention is to dedicate his life to it. He has the feeling the fate of the world depends on it. You'll need to support the tree for a long time to come. The only way it'll grow tall is with the burst of ki released from the Nono as they become one with the tree. You'll need a net to catch the Nono, and he wants you to use his, but asks you to be gentle. The Nono are sensitive beings, an embodiment of ki, the primal energy. You handle that net like you've never done anything else. He's impressed. He's grateful for all the help he can get. There's lots of Nono out there that need to be guided to the roots of the Pensai tree. Oh, it'll need a continuous flux of ki over the 12 months to come, so countless, he'd say. One day, he hopes the tree will have grown tall enough to sustain the world. But today, your focus is getting this one to become one with the tree. Now that you've seen the Nono's connection with the tree with your own eyes, you have no reason to doubt. From this day on, he'll make nurturing the Pensai into a tree of life, a life goal, not only for our village's sake, but for all of us, everyone. One day, the land won't be as peaceful. Not even your Mooma will be able to protect us. You can already see the effects from how reckless those before us acted, and unless something changes, we're doomed. The land won't survive the side effects of the old world's industrial advances. He says you'd better hurry back to the village before your Mooma comes looking for you. You did good here today. No, she's got lots on her mind and needs rest after the raid last night on the Lupin camp with her disciples. Wonders if they let the Predator family live or not.
vunko vuntu.
He lost you there for a while, but no memory is alone. It's part of a trail you can follow.
E baso tombubu bukoye.
He says he remembers every single day he devoted to growing the Tree of Life, but now he's afraid it might be in vain.
Bilia antuf.
The tree started to die when the end of days begun, and it wasn't long after that the World Eaters arrived.
Weta gono. Maoto liawahu.
The genetic evolution that occurred after the apocalypse that Toxanol Corporation inflicted on the land set the World Eaters' DNA into overdrive. His friend Gizmo is working on a Mekton and needs help defeating the Jumbo Puff at the end of the West Route. Wiz is still repairing his octopod to confront the Merc Puff that dwells deep down under the surface at the end of the Northwest Route. Nocco has tamed the Midget and is preparing to take on the Hoof Puff at the end of the East Route. Finally, Goop is almost done with the Goo Glide, a machine able to ride the waves of the surf all the way out to the Porky Puff at the end of the route to the southeast.
The water.
Out of Date says his friends are gearing up to stop the World Eaters. There's one at the end of each route.
Tamuk gabamuk tab.
The road ahead won't be easy, but he's counting on your support. His friends aren't strong enough to end this on their own.
The water. Weta gono.
He wants you to understand that you'll all die if the tree isn't saved.
Tamuk gabamuk tab. Dolomawanya.
His friends have prepared something specific for each World Eater. The Mekton, the Octopod, the Majute, and the Goo Glide are almost ready to ride.
Candida duela bofo.
Regardless, you'll meet again once you've played your part in the tribe war and the situation with the World Eaters.
Do wowu.
You're getting the hang of it. Quickest way out is through the roof where they came in, and the rope looks strong enough to climb. Know that the Tree of Life is dying. Its days are numbered. Without help, it can't endure the environmental change and assault from the World Eaters. That must be the World Eater that chewed off Out of Date's leg. You'll need a hat trick to bring that down. The World Eaters have made their marks on our world over time. That's not the first nor the last village it'll leave in its wake. It's unusual that natural tunnels like this still exist. Most of them got Look, a survivor. Glad to see someone made it out alive. He's heard the stories about the terror inflicted by the World Eaters to other enclaves, but never expected one to come all the way here. He worries there won't be much left to save if this continues, even if the Tree of Life survives the attack. He doesn't know what your connection is to this place, but something tells him you've stayed true to your heart. Anyway, he needs help and says it's by your actions you'll be judged, not by your intentions. He's grateful for that. You still seem to have a spark of light in you.
That's a spark of light in you!
What's there to like about light? It hurts to look at.
Not as much as it hurts to look at you.
Always making this personal.
And you're always trying to pretend it's not.
There's Out of Date again. He must have missed something important. Out of Date says you will make a better stand against the World Eaters with the support of a tribe, and there are two nearby. The Myriad tribe is likely to be a good match as they act on the understanding of the greater good and have a code of honor. Regardless of who you choose, it won't be easy, as the conflict between the tribes is worse than ever, teetering on the brink of war. The Myriad's conviction to stop the World Eaters began when the Leviathans rose from the depths of the surf. Siding with the Myriad's movement for wholeness in a fragmented world might seem like the logical thing to do, but is it the right thing? One thing's certain, though. Destiny arrives all the same. The Jagni tribe only ever had one conviction, to bring balance to the world by wiping out the weak. They believe a cleansing is necessary to restore the world, and want to let the World Eaters bring down the Tree of Life. But siding with Jagni isn't necessarily a bad thing. Fate will find a way. Out of Date says someone needs to break the stalemate and shift the balance of power to either Jagni's or Myriad's side. He believes the tribe Sifus, Myriad especially, will listen to you and expects you to pay at least one of them a visit and play your part. Myriad is convinced that defeating the World Eaters is the only way the world can be saved, but they've been forced to focus on their rivalry with the Jagni tribe. Out of Date will be waiting for you beneath the Tree of Life if you lose track of what you need to do. Regardless, you'll meet again once you've played your part in the tribe war and the situation with the World Eaters. It's a beaten path to that door. If you go there, you'd better make an entrance. Says they're wary of strangers. They're at war. Hopes you have patience. The Sifu can't stop himself from talking sometimes. Let's hope this isn't one of those days.
Sibi? La fanen agin kan man. Geraten na falo hutut mus. Tugai la wute.
The Myriad tribe act on understanding of the greater good and a code of honor. They believe uniting the tribes is the only way to restore the peace. The Sifu is convinced that defeating the World Eaters and saving the Tree of Life is the only way to make the world a better place. He welcomes you to the Myriad Fort and introduces himself as the tribe's Sifu. But he was hoping you'd show up. The news of a vigilante Ronin on crusade crossing the Great Wall through the crack in Bunker 101 has preceded you. He heard you took Out of Date's side against the scavengers in Bunker 101. It seems you believe in helping your next, and that's something you have in common.
Get a one thing.
He's convinced you've returned for a reason, and is glad you chose to come here.
Can't boof, get it not.
There's something about your spirit that sparks memories of you as a kidling. He can still sense you're kind-hearted.
Guaremba. Karamotti. Can't boof.
The Sifu says sometimes one memory can make another come to life. He hasn't thought about your Muma for ages, even though she taught him a lot. He was one of the original Wang Fu disciples.
Britta, ala banglif. Herim denken alvesse ane.
Your Muma invented Wang Fu. Originally, it consisted of unarmed combat and the 6 weapons, the boomerang, the shuriken, the bow, the staff, the nunchuk, and the hook and chain.
Buka mun lo sada.
The Sifu says it's time to set the past aside, at least for now. Unrest is sweeping the land, and there are rivals in all directions.
Britta, gelen denken of what nea.
Myriad wants unity between the tribes. Their goal is understanding of the greater good and establishing a code of honor. If you believe there's some good in everyone, there's still hope for tomorrow. You'll unite the tribes and defeat the World Eaters to save the Tree of Life.
Gelen denken of what nea.
He was hoping you'd join them. You understand that there's no harm in doing good to others.
Get a wach. Man is slink yok. But it were yonke.
The Sifu was waiting for something to tip the balance in their favor, and with you by their side, he's confident you can unite the other tribes. The one you should coerce first is the Jagni tribe.
Gine afirma gatano shub budo. Lapu, garadam woof and mat gain.
The myriad were placed here to fulfill a certain purpose, chosen to unite the tribes and take control of their destiny. The tribes need a firm hand guiding them into the future.
Get a wach. Lapu, get a denken hirim.
Their kin have run out of options and found themselves backed into a corner. Even those who desire peace have been forced to prepare for war.
Get a denken hirim.
You need to take the struggle to the enemy, or the enemy will bring it to you. When survival is threatened, there's no other option left but war. He wants you to focus. These are the new rival outposts your tribe needs to take control of. He says you'll regret not being on their side. The only way you'll learn their secrets, Wung Fu and the tribe weapon now, is if you defeat him. And that will never happen.
Get out full of vasine habele.
You both have gentle minds, so they want to wage a gentle war. A war that bonds as much as it breaks.
Get out full of vasine habele. Tankand. Gala one.
Tells you not to be afraid. Your fate cannot be taken from you. Claim the rival outposts and earn the right to wield the tribe weapon.
Gala one.
Once you've dealt with the rivals' outposts, you'll challenge their Sifu to unite their tribe with yours and let your kin share land again.
Platz.
They passed the point of no return as their words lost power and see no other way forward than using violence to combat violence.
Platz.
Seeing you brings back his memories of the old village.
Jaco denke. Wala papa.
Myriad wants unity between the tribes. Their goal is understanding of the greater good and establishing a code of honor.
Schleine verrotna mika. De gula mamwaffe.
He remembers your kind and unselfish soul and can sense you still have it in you, the will to do good.
Sibi.
Anyway, the memories you make with your family are strong and can sometimes come to life. Passing the old village on your way to the first rival outpost might help.
Karap. La woede. All the goose are gonna heck echt.
Even though it's now a different place from a different time, it is a place that'll make you remember. Time is lost on this place, but it evokes a tingling sensation. There's something special about it, drawing you closer. As time passes, memories fade, and sometimes feelings change. It's not about who you were, it's about who you'll become. This story is far from over. Echoes of a long-lost past, like whispers in the wind. Here's someone who takes each day as it comes. He asks how you are today. Goop says he always does better whenever he leaves failure behind. He's happy his good mood is infectious. He wonders where you've been. He hopes you've been out at the lake, practicing your swimming technique. He understands Wang Fu is hard. That's why your Muma only has 6 disciples. Doing just one thing helps you get more done in less time. He thinks you should really know how to swim by now. Why not? There's no better time to do what needs to be done than right now. He says, that wasn't too bad, was it? Way to go. Don't let the sound of the waves drown out your spirit. But you need practice. Lots of practice. Great things usually happen to those who never stop trying. He hopes you'll be one of them. You just need more time in the surf. That's the only way you'll ever learn how to swim. You can never try too hard. Judging by your Muma's look, it seems you forgot something.
Andro?
You promised you'd train with her before the sun goes down. It's time to go. You know you can't make up for lost time. You should know. Practice makes perfect. You have to keep working on it if you want to be good at it. She'll see you at the village square. She'll be waiting for you. There will be a surprise for you at the end, too. Here's another familiar face with lots on his mind. Asks how you're feeling today. Being nice comes easy for him. That doesn't make it less important. He was hoping you could help him pick up some scrap for a thingamajig he's working on. He's happy to hear that from someone that's a part of the coming generation. You owe it to yourself to protect the environment. You should look for things that are recyclable. It shouldn't take you too long to find some. He wonders what usefulness you found. He says every little thing counts. He can work wonders with almost anything and asks if you know how to upcycle. That's the spirit. You can't make a difference unless you get your hands dirty. He'd love to teach you to upcycle, and the scrap you found would be a good start. You did well, but he can't help but wonder why you decided to craft a weapon. He believes being considerate will help you feel at peace with yourself. He understands, but hopes you won't be needing it anytime soon. You're not in this world to live up to his expectations, but he hopes you're never going to have to use that weapon of yours. He's looking forward to seeing what you'll make next. It seems you have a talent for this. It looks like she's starting to lose her patience.
Kanyalanotoro.
You know she doesn't like waiting for you. She wants to see you on the village square right away.
Asana yotutupu.
Then you've got a good excuse. You share a responsibility to prevent hardship on nature and the environment. It's your future.
Kanamunta.
She wants you to grow up and start thinking for yourself. You really need to find yourself before she's gone.
Anora kapapum. Kanamunt.
That's all she's ever asked of you, that you'll try and give it your best. You can't do more than that.
Anora kapapum. Kanamunta.
You've always followed your own path, but this time she needs you to follow her.
Minalagi mamuru.
She wants you to understand that whatever path you choose in life, you must stay true to yourself. They look determined. Better watch out.
Amawana.
He asks you to stop right there and wonders where you think you're going.
Amawana. Alu ea.
He says that it's not too late for you to turn back, though.
Shisivuru akatira.
There's no way they'll let you pass.
Shisivori yake.
He wants to know who you think you are.
Shisivori yake. Mali arunu matua.
They push each other to become better, and sometimes someone gets pushed down along the way.
Kanamunta.
She asks if you're hurt. What happened?
Bolakamunum rutna. Kanamunta.
If confidence is silent and insecurity is loud, she thinks you're absolutely right.
Bolakamunum rutna.
The most important thing is that you're okay.
Urasa durut.
It's time to focus on your training now.
Gendrana mala. Asil natu.
She said it before. Wang Fu will keep your body in good health, and that's how you keep your mind strong and clear. Here's someone close to heart, doing what he does best. Seeing you always puts a smile on your Popsy's face. He wants to know how you're feeling.
Kuali.
He heard you helped Gizmo clean up. He's proud of you. He asks if you could help him, too, before you leave for training. He wishes that was true for your Mooma, too, but guiding the village into the future and teaching Wang Fu to her disciples seems more important for every day. He suggests you get going and find him gadgets and ideas for how you can upcycle some old fabrics. He's curious to see what you found. He's all for renewal and has even considered making the trip out into the wilds to look for a bionucleus pool and refresh his DNA. He can work wonders with pretty much anything and asks if you know how to upcycle. Says at least dirty hands are proof that you tried, and that counts. That you failed this time doesn't mean you can't succeed the next. He says it's about time you learned how, and offers to teach you, starting with the scrap you found. The style might be too edgy for his taste, but it looks sharp on you.
Vaksan u intabadan kamaklai.
He knows she's already proud of you and everything you've achieved so far.
Ja.
You should take it with you, wear it to practice.
Vaksan u intabadan kamaklai. Why ad foodlea haya?
He's sure your Muma will forgive you for not wearing the traditional outfit.
Ziehen.
He's looking forward to seeing what you'll make next. It seems you have a talent for this.
Vasen och kasaman var
Your Muma says it's about time you got here.
Kanorota, pendrene senema.
Wants you to understand that you can do anything if you work really hard.
Kanorota, puri kumbala muma.
She says she is eager to get started. You don't have much time left before the sun goes down.
Sanna jote, anson bara.
But there's enough time left for repetition, and you need it. Training dummies don't hit back.
Kent sib,
Wants you to prove that with some practice first.
andro,
Your Muma says you did well today. She's so proud of you.
brumblene marsamambunundu.
Thanks you for being such a good student.
Dropalo, kent sib,
Been working on a present for you, with the help of Gizmo and Wiz.
brumblene marsamambunundu. Kanamunta,
You should go see him and find out what it is. You've deserved it.
dropalo.
That's why you should be sure to thank him for it. Catchy.
Kanamunta,
Your Muma says she's never seen an apparatus as green as this little thing. It's wonderful.
mustiki muhka,
She's happy you appreciate what others do for you.
ingavaldo, asadurutu.
A piece of Scraptronics like this has built-in old-world tech that makes it a potent communication device.
Brumblene marsamambunundu.
It's called an automaton, and it's hardwired to your DNA. It'll follow wherever you go and see whatever you see.
Pendrene senema.
You're lucky to have such a fine helper with you.
Ferena masalapo.
Your Muma says you look tired. No wonder. It's been a long day.
Puri kumbala muma.
Says a good rest makes you ready for tomorrow. Rest, and you'll find strength for tomorrow. Nothing could stop Lupa Lupin from setting the world on fire.
Antoro. Kent sib. Kamonu.
Your Muma urges you to blaze a trail. A burnt kidling will learn to dread fire. Give it a last burst and you'll make it.
Puri kumbala muma.
Your Muma says this is it. The time has come. She must fight Lupa Lupin. This time there's no escape. She can hear him coming.
Taifanana numa.
Lupa Lupin is a problem older than you.
Arialoche nui numera. Asadurutu.
Whatever happens, you need to know she loves you. And everything she's done has been to protect you, your Popsy, and those she was chosen to lead.
Asadurutu.
She tells you to stay back. This is her fight. It has nothing to do with you. History has finally caught up with her.
Recentere. Aplitonumuta.
She loves how brave you are, but she can't be worrying about you while she fights. This is her fight. Here it comes. The past coming to haunt the present. You must go through fire and water to make it out of here. Your Muma says you can make it if you believe in it. Where she goes, you go. Blood is thicker than water. You're in deep surf. Don't make waves. The surf goes where it wants to go. It'll take you to the shore as long as you go with the flow. Death is not to be feared by one who has lived life with a pure heart. A part of her will live on in you. The creature is hungry for more. Nothing is going to stand in its way now. If a sacrifice is made for someone else, it's not lost, but passed on to the next. Life must go on. Real sacrifice comes from love and necessity when all other options are exhausted. The ultimate test of conscience is the willingness to give up anything to save what you truly care about. What you do for yourself dies with you. What you do for your kin remains and makes you immortal in their memory. As the moment fades and is lost, the only thing that remains is loneliness. It doesn't mean you'll forget your past. It simply means you need to move on. The tribe's caught a fluffy hulk. Better watch out, it's no pet. They couldn't keep it down. Fluff hulk's on the loose. Half-life. You gave them no choice but to take it down, even though they'd planned to take the fluff hulk out to the far Fnacky leaves and let it go. They've received news a Ronin had strengthened their ranks and were looking forward to meeting you. A group of myriad crusaders already headed out to Jagni's Mercadorpus outpost and are waiting for you there. You should hurry there and help them best the outpost. You complete them. From this point on, the myriad is unbroken. Toxanol was something called a corporate juggernaut, and our world still bears the marks of the massive ecological catastrophes they inflicted upon the land. The apocalypse they caused was the end of days for their world. But for us, it was simply a beginning. Look, an emergency box from the old days, when you needed to pack a punch to survive. Wow, bet that nut makes a tight fist. Tunnels like this still carry echoes from the past. Can you hear it? Scrapalicious! That notice board? Filled with the leftovers of used-to-be wants. You're getting close to one of those old Toxanol brick towns. Pay attention. The Toxanol Corporation made this place, and then just threw it away when they were done with it. Toxanol never cared about the waste, as long as they didn't have to pay to clean it up. Says it's time to set the outpost free. Inflict as little damage as possible as you make your way through to the rival captain.
That's all,
Clarifies that rigging the odds in your favor in preparation of the takeover is one thing, but collateral damage is another. Here's the first line of defense. That's a bomb lobber. That hit the spot, wrecked it. That twirly wheel works that drain pipe. Spin the twirly wheel and open that drain. Just a few moves left. Make them count. Everything's clocking together. Find a key that fits. Keep going. That cage is holding a helper. They never lost hope you'd come, but weren't sure if they'd last long enough to see it. Says the tribe's been hard on them. Wants revenge on those who caged them, but trust you'll take care of it. A sharpshooter. The scaffolding looks unstable. Better stay clear of the red ray. Here's the second line of defense. timber. Bet a big bump will bring it down. Switched off the light. A barrel chute. Smack it to get a barrel out of it, then hit it toward the gate and blast it. That looks splody. Shoot it and watch it blow. Not kaboom, you're in. Almost there. The outpost belongs to your tribe now. He says you made them weaker, but they won't give up. Your Sifu thanks you. Your tribe is growing stronger. Says you did a great job capturing the outpost. You've earned the privilege of carrying the tribe's weapon.
Gamematics.
Figures the honor belongs to the tribe, too. Out of Date says he's doing his best to keep up, but from what he can tell, it seems you're making progress with the tribe conflict. He had a feeling you'd get along with the Myriad tribe, but it remains to be seen what the future holds for your alliance. You seem to share the same values as the Myriad tribe. You both have the same optimistic outlook on life. At least, for now. But Out of Date emphasizes that solving the tribe conflict won't matter unless you help make a stand against the World Eaters. That doesn't sound good. Out of Date's forebodings are justified. The jumbo puff needs to be taken care of. He says the time has come to confront the jumbo puff at the end of the west route. Gizmo is working on making his Mekton strong enough to endure the oxygen-deprived dead zone all the way out to the World Eater. You should get over there and see what you can do to help. The board mainly has posts from those that used to work at the chug yard back in the days gone. They don't make much sense these days. Not much more to say about the board, but Gizmo is holed up in the underyard here working on that Mekton of his. The Toxanol Corporation used to run chugger-chuggers out of here, big machines on rails with smokestacks that fouled the air. They can carry you anywhere you like. Well, anywhere that they go to, and then you can leg it from there. Tribes always scavenging for scrap, and the yard has plenty to go around. But they should have stuck to looting instead of playing around with sprockets. Bomper Bonker's busy ram-banging the door. This is your chance. Wonder what you could make with that. Yes, you can do anything. The sky's the limit. Now, let's take this back to Earth. Wow, you really took that all the way down to the end, in flames. It's a wonder some of these up and downs still work. Guess they built machines better in the past. The spent nuclear fuel that Toxanol dumped in the surf had detrimental effects on the marine habitats, while the overflowing landfills contaminated the groundwater. Combined, this sent their world hurtling on an inevitable road to ruin. I need to brush up on my Wando, but I have a feeling he believes it was you that caused the bang at the yard. Oh, and he says he knows you. You used to call him Gizmo. He gave you the oil-greased hands when he taught you how to upcycle. Gizmo remembers you as a nice kidling, and he can still sense the warmth of your good heart. But Gizmo says how you experience a memory can be different. You know the story, but sometimes the truth it brings is personal. He hopes you remember that one time he taught you to upcycle, and hopes you've had some use for it over the years. Gizmo says he also has re-memories from the long gone, but unlike you, he doesn't think of the past, for it's gone. He understands history made Lupa-Lupin a big part of your past, your present, and soon, your future. You still believe there's some good in everyone. You still have hope for tomorrow. He says you should know that what's meant to be will always find a way, but history shouldn't consume you. Gizmo understands you still have strong feelings, but urges you to keep them under control. You've witnessed firsthand what it'll lead to.
Yes, that's the way. No arguing with that.
That is how you shine light at the dark.
Seriously, don't doubt the dark.
I'm so proud of you for doing the right thing.
Can't believe you let that loser sway you.
Would like to know if you ever doubt the choices you made on the path that brought you to this point. Would you have been happier going in a different direction? Supposes that's all any of us can do. Hard to believe the world is actually going to survive. Just seemed impossible till now. Grateful to you for coming back and doing your best to change things. You were the only chance they had. Wonders if you liked working with the Myriad. They always seemed so centered and so seeking. Thinks that's more than most are. It's hard to keep to a path like that. But that's not important now. Gizmo says it's taken a long time to bring the past up to the present, and where you go from here is up to you. You need to set the past aside, at least for now. He can't leave the underyard as he has no protection against the vacuum in the dead zone, so you need to salvage scrap to upcycle the Mekton, starting with the old crate outside. You should return when you've retrieved the scrap. There's no time to waste if you want to make the Mekton strong enough to fight the Jumbo Puff. It's the part of the land that suffered most from the apocalypse. It's deprived of oxygen, making it next to impossible for anything but creatures that were most contorted by the contamination. There's short of breath and death to this zone. Better take care. He who half breathes, half lives. That's the leftover you're looking for. He says that's enough to get the Mekton functional. You'll have an engine, a fuel soaker, a gun and a gathering net, but no armor, nor enough oxygen supply. He made a suction device so the Mekton can use the black tar as an instant refuel. You can also use it to clear oily goo puddles, so you can pass and access hard-to-get-to areas. He's been working on another project for the Mekton, a cannon, but it needs ammunition, and by that he means the scripts. He says if they're trained right, they'll turn into a distraction for the jumbo puff. The best way to find scripts is to go talk to Moog. He knows the ins and outs of every breathing thing left alive after the apocalypse. Unfortunately, this means you'll have to venture farther out into the dead zone than Moog's camp on the steep depot. Once you find Moog, he'll be able to give you directions to where you'll find scripts. Gizmo thinks he's a little peculiar, but very knowledgeable. He has the ins and outs of all monster and creature whereabouts. The grease monkey's Mekton is built sturdy, just like himself. Might want to hold your breath before you head any further. You're about to witness the breathtaking vistas of what's known as the Dead Zone. That over there is Steepo Depot, the cliffside that Moog hangs on to.
Botse. Inmo. Diava. Baran udinamamba.
This one's impressed to see you out here. He figured you'd be dead by now. Not many are as tough and clever as you must be.
Tudu Baba.
Claims he goes after the most dangerous game, huge monsters.
Tudu Baba.
Moog says that all your power doesn't do you a bit of good if you're not willing to pull the trigger when the time comes.
Intabadam Farujudu.
Choosing what to kill and what to spare are the most important decisions you'll make.
Gar.
You might have a steady aim, but you need to be sure that you pick your targets with care.
Tarinman. Segaya Lama Yaba. Bushtaran Yadafa.
It's hard to make those life or death decisions for others, but someone's got to do it. Otherwise, they'll do it themselves, and you know they'll miss.
Gar.
When it comes to monsters, he mostly picks who dies.
Gar. Ovein. Como uno shalafid.
Says it's wild that the world seems to be coming back, but he supposes that means more monsters for him to shoot.
Mishaku hare zavania?
Wonders why you work so hard to keep things alive. Bullets help thin the herd instead.
Badan odidimada bulshada. Why ad fudlea haya?
Says you should give up on working with the stubborn myriad. He keeps trying to put out their lights and they keep putting up new ones.
Badan odidimada bulshada.
He's afraid you're just as stubborn as them.
Hose eskuku Johanna.
But enough of that, right?
Hose eskuku Johanna. Papa Zulu.
He says the wildlife, nature, has changed and turned against us. Instincts of survival took over when the world changed.
Mansela fat.
He's not sure about their veggie diet anymore, and if it's changed, who knows what it's done with the chemical composition of their body output.
Will she like book und so?
Right now, though, he feels he's come to a point where he's got a pretty clear idea on the whereabouts of monsters, both tall and short.
Owaksu?
Says as big as they are, the world is bigger. To find where they are, you need to see where they've been.
Woksa u inta badang kale.
Moog says you must learn to walk before you can run. It takes practice before you can call yourself a monster hunter. Fortunately for you, he can help. He understands you need to start off with something small before you go big.
Und lump. Kaffee eversinnet.
There's no better place to start than a squip cave. Hunting down a couple of these little critters for yourself should keep you on your toes.
Kaffee.
Says it's not far at all. Fortunately for you, the squips seem to have acclimatized themselves to the otherwise uninhabitable dead zone. Wait, it's the squip hole-up. Place is just filled with critters. Bullets everywhere. Once the volatilization from the nuclear waste evaporated, a volatile gas rose through the soil and infested structures, even Toxanol's own buildings. So, in a way, they caused their own death. Oh, idea. Go knock the lid off that sludge truck. It'll fill the place up and you can get up to that entrance there. In the old world, roads like this really led somewhere. Now, most of them lead to disaster. He says that's enough scripts to sustain the Mekton's claw crane cannon with infinite ammunition. Well done. It's not his cleanest invention so far, but it gets the job done. Use it to suck up gooey oil puddles in the Mekton's way so you can pass. Gizmo's made vehicles before to confront the Jumbo Puff himself, but failed. But this time it's different. The Mekton will be strong enough to do the job. It's time to put a stop to the World Eater now, otherwise he fears the damage it's caused to the tree already will be too much to handle. He asks you to not even think about taking on the Jumbo Puff on foot. You'll need the Mekton to do the job, take his word for it. There's time to improve the Mekton before you confront the Puff. There are more wreck boxes out in the dead zone with gear you should be able to equip the Mekton with on your own. It's already quite sturdy, but upgrading it will greatly improve your chances of victory. That's a Jumbo Puff with an appetite. Ain't no fuzz. Better put an end to it before it ends our world. Uh-oh, the Jumbo Puff is kicking it up a notch. It's time for an electric performance. A bad feeling about this. It goes all the way down to the stomach. Start like a snack, and you'll end up with a ride down the intestinal canal. That's too close to the end station. Better pumped out than flushed down. Don't let it happen again. Wow! What a super-sized wormwimp! That must be as big as they come. You see, it's what's on the inside that counts. That meaty Taurus is already offbeat. End it. Who would have guessed it would go down with a throw-up? Can it really get any better than that? He thanks you for dealing with the first World Eater. It's a start.
Lapu alabanglif.
You should go see Out of Date and find out what you can about the machine he's named the Ark.
Geratna fala hutut plats.
You're good-hearted enough, so you'll have no problem getting him to share the information with you.
Frey ro plats.
He trusts you know where to find Out of Date by now. He's always been at the foot of the tree, and that hasn't changed. That's the Jagni tribe's fort. Their friendship can be a blessing or a curse. It's up to you. You're either a part of their solution to the tribe war, or part of the problem.
Geragadingen hiram. Wapala misa.
They've been waiting for you. Taking control of this fort will bring peace between your tribes.
Wapala misa mus.
The scouts have reported activity nearby that's worth looking into before you enter the fort.
Wapala misa. What?
They've positioned a storm tower near the fort that you'll use to get over the wall. However, you need to prop up its wheelhouse first to stabilize the situation.
To guy la wute tankand.
They've built the storm tower to protect and get you over the walls of the fortification while keeping an element of surprise. It's time to set the rival tribe free. Inflict as little damage as possible as you make your way through to their Sifu. You need to unite the tribes and save the Tree of Life to truly become free. That's a fire starter. The dry grass looks like it would ignite easily. You just need to create a spark to light a fire. It burns brighter than the light. Slice and dice. That's a pyro sizzler right there. Just get to work on it. Make it frizzle. The dark can make you miss the day fierce. Nice crackle. The battering bonker looks like a great way to get through the gate. Bet you just need to knock and it'll open up. That's bonkers. The Jagni tribe wants to become omnipresent and, most importantly, feared. They want to vanquish the tribes as the only way they can guarantee peace is through supremacy. He didn't expect it would go down this way. It'll be hard to talk your way out of a fight. He needs a logical reason to surrender the fort without a fight. He recognizes the strength of a good argument and agrees it's for the best. He'll surrender the fort to you. The rival Sifu is defeated, and the destiny of their tribe is in your hands. You are free to choose their fate, but not free from the consequences of your choice. He'll leave it up to you to decide the fate of the rival Sifu, but suggests you be merciful. Do good, and good will follow you. Thinks it's a good gesture to offer support to others when you can see that they need it. And with that, you're spinning your own fate, good or bad, never to be undone. Side by side they'll stand until order and stability is reinstituted. Your Sifu is pleased. You're one step closer to uniting the tribes. It's a pity you needed to use force to get the point across. But he's still concerned about the fate of the world. You can't lose this war. If you get the ending wrong, the effort it took to get there was in vain. A proper ending, however, provides closure. He says you've grown so much stronger than when you first met. You know better than anyone that the fate of the world is still at stake. You need a world where everyone is guided only by their conscience. That little voice inside that lets you know right from wrong. Don't go against it if you want to enjoy life without fear of death. It's a rare sight. Treasure it. Wildlife here is teetering on the brink of extinction. We all are. The meat-eater again. Nothing seems to satiate his hunger. The gnat is done for unless you intervene. Who could stand against it? There it is, the tree of life. The idea that all life is related by common descent, where the twigs are existing species and those produced in the past represent the succession of the extinct. The tree's great branches were once budding twigs, a connection between the past, present, and future. A representation of all extinct and living species with its ever-branching and beautiful ramifications. We are an evolution of those that came before. It's a place well hidden. It's just below the above.
Mauketo tolu Ayadr tai miss.
Out of Date's impressed you made it this far, but there's still so much left to do. The end of the world is still on everyone's minds.
En paso tompupu du koye.
You've beaten a path where you have the power to destroy or save everyone. Question is, what you'll do with that responsibility.
Luatulu maua. Satuatan papkila.
He can sense that your heart beats steadily and acknowledges that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others.
Valu alu hero.
Thinks it's important that you remember who you are and where you came from. Someone without knowledge of their history and origin is like a tree without roots.
Tuluya. Vuto lula. En paso tompupu du koye.
What do you think his are? He's the one that's called Out of Date, remember?
Tika maperna. Poyubut pai gatawa.
Out of Date says there's a time for everything, and now there's no use thinking of the past, for it's gone.
Ya moluwando.
Think of the present, because that's where you are. It's time to set your priorities as the one who completes things.
Tolomawanya.
If you continue to do good, good will follow you.
Ikobe. Ifari kobo farmu.
If the world really does end, there won't be anywhere to run. So he's prepared for the worst, something he calls the Ark.
Kunzata ghetto. Maotoliawahu.
He hopes you're right. He gets that you mean the journey continues either way, but personally he wants the tree to survive.
Tolowoya lo yalu batoluyu.
Out of Date says there's no clear record of the chain of events that changed the course of history and brought the world to its knees.
Kuchai. Ifar befarbe. Kunzata ghetto.
He's found evidence on the Ark, records of a crisis, decades of contamination that permeated the ground and broke its inner core.
Vunko vuntubo.
The contamination disrupted what we now know as key energy, the life force that runs through all things, living and inanimate.
Kutuvun poputowe. Ye mufurbo. Bumu.
He's been told the blight affected everything at a genetic level and turned our perception of normality on its head.
Yatu yao mawa. Ye mufurbo. Bumu.
It was only those that changed that avoided extinction, proving that the possibility for survival and renewal was real.
Tolua lu toluka. Mpa. Wherefore. Where?
He understands you are curious about the ship at the foot of the tree. He says it surfaced when the oil broke through the ground.
Yevofo lolanofo.
The Ark predates the back-in days, and now, after years of study of the manuals he found inside, he believes he's figured the ship out.
Mpa. Wherefore. Where?
The Ark has room for 4 more, and he trusts you'll apply wisdom to your compassion and choose whom to save if the world comes to end.
Atu awa ya. Evunkutu buvum.
He'll keep the seats open, and you are free to invite up to 4 others to join you in the Ark, in the event of a cataclysm.
Mayani. Nuka. Nuburak.
Out of Date says that from what he's heard, you've been busy.
Cantita duela bofo.
He says he appreciates what you've done so far, but unfortunately he's got urgent news from his friend Goop in the southeast.
Nuekek ujbar no barke.
Out of Date says that even though he's unsure about your intentions, he hopes you'll support Goop.
Muk bebuk bilia antuf.
He says he'll point you in the right direction, but finding Goop and making sure he gets what he needs is up to you. That's the sound of impending doom. Out of Date's premonitions of imminent disaster are true. The porcupine needs to be handled.
Ewe bobuye.
Out of Date says that Goop is worried now that the Southeast World Eater is stepping up its activity.
Tolu keta. Ya wawanawe. Loma utulu ba Yowo.
He explains that Goop is working on a goo-gliding vessel in order to get to the World Eater, but needs help to get it done.
Wipa. Loto lu bayo.
Out of Date suggests that you should head southeast as fast as possible and see what you can do to help. That there's Subnautica Station. Goop flounders around in there. Lots of notices on the board for things that made sense in the days when the surf was a lot cleaner. Interesting to see what they cared about here. Wonder if any of it matters now. In the old days, this was a port for boats that went under the surf. They helped clog the surf into goo. They made a lot of green, which is all they really cared about. You should be able to find a track here. Just need to keep your eyes open. Hey, you found the track, even around all this goopy goo. Nothing escapes your googly eye. The surf here looked cleaner when that track was made. It wasn't easy to peer through the surf, but there are iBox tapes on record that shows they knew what kind of mutated creatures their contamination had created. Glad you had the patience to learn more about how the surf got gooed.
Yangu. Ajitawa. Tonako kandwale zizatiarianu.
Gulpo ain't the easiest tongue, but I think he says he's happy to see a friendly face. Not too many of those around these days.
Yokia.
Says it's good to see you again. He's Goop. You might remember him from the old days when he tried to teach you how to swim. Goop says you were always so righteous as a child, and he can still feel it, even at a distance. Goop says memories fade surprisingly fast. We are all pieces of what we remember. It's only together we can remember the story as it was. He knows he's easy to remember. There's no one out there as cuckoo as him. He's one of a kind. Goop says our memory keeps things for us and protects them until we are ready to face them again. He understands you've returned to face Lupa Lupin. That's the destiny you've been carrying within yourself all these years. He says that the catastrophe back then didn't vanquish the good in you. It's still there, as bright as when you were a child. Now the time has come for you to remember and act. Your life is your life, not the story you're told about it. He understands why you seek revenge, but he doesn't think you realize how that'll make you feel once you claimed it.
Now you're getting into the dark groove.
That's not a groove, it's a rut.
And what's wrong with ruts? I love ruts.
Groove, rut, whatever, you can still escape it.
Escape it? No way. Enjoy it.
Says life on the goo is wide open. You have so many choices of where to go. Some harder than others, of course. Which kind do you like? Hit the open surf, then. The trouble is you can only rely on yourself, at least until you reach a new shore and make new friends. Can hardly believe the world is going to make it. Wonders what that's going to do to the goo. Thanks you for doing everything you could to de-goop the surf. Thinks the Myriad made a good match with you. You're both like sunshine on the surf. Never seen any brighter. Shine on. But hey, back to the goo. Knows yesterday is already gone. It's what you do today and tomorrow that'll move you forward. You need to set the past aside, at least for now. He can't leave the Subnautica station as the pollution has worn down the insulation of his suit, so you must salvage enough scrap to fix up his goo glide, starting with the old wreck box outside. You should return when you've retrieved the scrap. There's no time to waste if you want to make the goo glide strong enough to fight the porky puff. It's not that it won't keep your head above the surface, but it needs improving to carry you across the thick goo out by the porky puff. We're all heroes of our own stories, or so we hope. Just a few moves left. Make them count. Made it count. Hazardous. Toxanol's offshore drilling caused oily matter to spread with the rain and contaminate both the groundwater and open surf. The long-lasting effect this had on the evolution of wildlife was, as we know now, the only reason we came to exist. He's got the goo glide functional. You'll have a pull hook and a salvage net, but no armor, and an engine strong enough to break through the thick goo further out. There's debris floating around on the surf that might be blocking your path or needs to be towed. That means you'll need a device so you can get it out of your way. Goop says Gizmo's devised a cannon for the goo glide, but instead of bullets, it flips quacks, squeaky distractions for the triple attentive porky puff, which will give you time to get yourself in position. The The best way to find quacks is to talk to Gulp. He has the bearings of the surf archipelago and knows where the quacks like to float. This means you'll have the privilege of visiting Gulp in the Sinky Dink. He'll be able to give you directions to where you'll find quacks. He only knows what's visible to the naked eye. Gulp is not much of a babbler and mostly keeps to himself and his drink. On your own again.
Ja.
This is He's pretty sure he's heard of you before, although the details are maybe a little hazy. He wonders if you have something for him to drink. Says it's both everything you could want and never enough. Says you look like you've got a powerful thirst to do something in this world. Good, bad, not really sure, but it seems like you've been drinking in your destiny and liking the flavor. Wonders if you could take the time to help a man slake his own thirst. You'd be doing him a liquid solid. You're a do-gooder, so you know you want to. Either way, he hopes you find a way to wet your whistle before the world comes to an awful dry end and leaves us all thirsting for more. Says life's like a mystery drink. Sometimes it's amazing, and sometimes it's awful. But either way, you can't stop drinking till you're dead. Sure, but that's nowhere near as quick and easy. Who wants to stop to chew? Wants to raise a glass to you getting the world fixed up a bit. Respects how you always try to help, no matter that the world's fate is hard to swallow. Sees why you joined up with the Myriad. They like a peaceful drink, just like you. Says he sells them drinks. They mostly suck them down on their own. But who cares about them? Says you'd be as bummed out as him if you came for the hot stuff. The Glugmocker, Nimhimbibble, and his favourite radium syrup. That one's even more intoxicating now, aged in truck tankers and all. Without a drink, and radium syrup especially, he can't move, much less think, as the power of his mind is directly proportioned to the quantity of syrup he swigs. That's why he's called Gulp. The drink helps him forget the state the world is in, but only lasts until tomorrow. The world is still doomed, even if the sun goes up. Says that's what gives your internal such a great glow. He wants you to know he has other interests too. He's the Surf Archipelago's self-proclaimed ornithologist, for example. There are other ways than a cold drink to relieve stress, even in these dark times, and, fortunately for you, he can help. Watching pippies flap is calming, but better yet are the ones you can look at and touch, like quacks. Squeezing them is a great way to relax. Says he read that in an old world book. It means you're an expert of all living things that flap and tweet. The Quack Hollow. It's just lonely.
Hallelujah.
That's enough quacks to sustain the Googlide flipper with infinite ammunition. Goop says he was there when the Porky Puff took Out of Date's leg, so this World Eater has made it personal. After that, Out of Date started using his head instead of his legs and came up with the plan on how to best make a stand against the World Eaters, and it wasn't by foot. That's how he got tasked with rebuilding the Googlide. It's the Porky Puff nibbling bark. It took quite a liking to the crunchy stuff after munching down Out of Date's leg. Unleash the quacks. Ain't that cute? A two-bit playing with quacks. Can you feel it? It's the brisk wind of change. Don't let this opportunity slide. He thanks you for dealing with another World Eater. You're halfway there. He's got word Out of Date spotted Loopa Loopin and has a feeling your time has come. He hopes you're up for it. Even though you're good-hearted, you shouldn't miss this opportunity to confront the Predator. Just head back to the foot of the tree. Fingers crossed Loopa Loopin will stay put until you're there. Got word you found the greatest glider of all, an Ark, and it's all good to go. Can't imagine how that would feel, to zoom so fast. Funny that you found an Ark when you don't need to go anywhere in it. The world's still going to be here. Proud of you for thinking about helping before escaping, either way. Wonders if there are any open seats left in that fancy Ark glider of yours.
So, what we have here is an opportunity to help your next. There's a seat open on the Ark should you want to offer it as a gesture of appreciation.
Why? You don't need anyone else but yourself and me, of course, but I'm a part of you, so that doesn't count.
If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. The only one we'd want to get away quickly from here is darkness.
But you know you can't go on without me. Even if I'm bad company, I complete you.
I think we can finally agree on something. It is better to be alone than in bad company. But best of all is being good company yourself.
Feels thrilled to snag a seat in your ark. Can't wait to glide through the skies. Goop knows he's repeating himself, but can't help talking to you. Says you should take care. Out of Date says the time has come for you to reconcile with your past. Lupa Lupin is still staying in the camp where he was brought up. He hopes you'll find the answers you are looking for there. Even though darkness is a part of your nature, he suggests you try to keep your cool, as the best fighter is never angry. He'll point you in the right direction, but the rest is up to you. This part of the journey is one you'll have to do on your own. Lupa Lupin's camp has always been there, hidden deep inside the mountains. Out of Date hopes you'll find your way and the answers you were looking for once you're there. He knows he said it before, but the time has come to put an end to the Lupin's reign of terror. You should get over there, come face to face with destiny. It's going to be you against the Lupin. No rules. Tread carefully here. This is Lupa Lupin's camp. Lupa Lupin says he's been looking forward to this moment. He wanted you to come here and see for yourself where it all started. He was so little when your mother and kin came here to put an end to his mother just because she was different, a hunter. That night, the hunter became the hunted, trapped with nowhere to run. He says your mother showed no mercy, only vengeance. He can see that you're not like your mother. There's something different about you. Maybe you would have made a better decision than she did, and let them be. They orphaned him, left him alone, an outcast and a freak. Lupa Lupin says he's been reliving the moment every night since then. He says your mother and her disciples started something that couldn't be undone. They created the monster he would become. He knew his time would come, and he was patient. So, when he got news about your birth, he knew how to get revenge that would last. That's why he spared you that night he raised the village when you were a child. He wanted you to suffer for life, like he had. He marked you for life, so he'd recognize you when you met again, and you'd eventually remember where you came from. His hunger grew insatiable over the years to come. He tried, but being vegetarian wasn't in his nature, and he couldn't go hungry. But he's never taken a life for the sake of appetite. It's always been about survival, and that our true self is being who we are,
Just so.
A deep look into nature will make you understand everything better, and that natural selection eliminates and the strongest survive. Fate is for those too weak to determine their own destiny, and now the time has come for you to accept yours.
Momombusu, farfarifyo, tuka kubu.
Out of Date says that from what he's heard, you've been busy.
Mauya, ikobe. Ifari kobo farmu.
He says he appreciates what you've done so far, but unfortunately he's got urgent news from his friend Noko in the east.
Befarbihita, huntukub kirko, shintuata moti huasa.
Out of Date says that even though he's unsure about your intentions, he hopes you'll support Noko.
Tuluya, vutu lula, mauketo, tul atu iamalao.
He says he'll point you in the right direction, but finding Noko and making sure she gets what she needs is up to you. That doesn't sound good. Out of Date was spot on. The hoof puff needs to be stopped.
Vunko vunturubo.
Out of Date says that Noko is worried now that the Eastern World Eater is stepping up its activity.
Come ripa, to wavu, vunko vunturubo.
He explains that Noko keeps a fabled steed that she has planned to ride out to the World Eater, but needs help to get it prepared.
Evunko tu buvum.
Out of Date suggests that you should head east as fast as possible and see what you can do to help. Look at those notices on the board. Too bad the Gnotes couldn't read them. If you wander around here, you might find Noko. She just loves those Gnotes. Once the power ran out, it made sense to ride Gnotes, and that tradition continued through the years. Powered types of transportation polluted the world, but didn't poop in the street. Obviously, they didn't have their priorities right in those days.
Turi kumbala muma. Asana yotpa.
Nooks isn't an easy language, but at least it's manageable. She says she is so happy to see you again.
Vaseno kasaman warutala.
She wonders if you remember her. She's Noko. She let you ride her Majut when you were a kid.
Vaseno kasaman warut.
Noko remembers you used to chase around with so much energy and is glad to see you haven't lost any of that spark.
Kanoruta.
But that's all long gone now, though. Memories show us where we've been, not where we're going.
Aplitonumuta. Kanamunta.
Seems reluctant to even say its name. It's become personal to her too, since it's taken so many of her innocent gnotes as prey.
Amun. Asilnatu.
Noko remembers those days too, but she never lets herself wallow in them, no matter how tempting that can be.
Kanamunt. Ritzentere. Monibasa.
She sees you're back to buck with Lupa Lupin. Can't see how there's any way to avoid that now. Not for long, at least.
Pialtuma. Deret.
She says the horrors of your younger days were enough to ruin anyone, but not you. You've got all that cheer about you still.
Drumblele marsamambunundun. Kialdo male canoto.
Noko says history is like the trail you've been on. You can walk back down it any time you like, until it's worn smooth. But you get to blaze your own trail from here.
Kamonu.
Then you are stronger than her. She can't help wanting Lupa Lupin to pay for what he did to her gnotes, despite the fact it's against her nature.
Love to see you shine on.
You got it. Take a break from all that's bright.
Who doesn't love a little sparkle in their lives?
Anyone with the slightest self-respect.
And that's overrated.
Inadabsunka. Deret.
Asks how many paths you've wandered in the world, and if you ever wonder about what might have changed if you'd taken different ones.
Tukonda.
You can't do everything you want, can't go everywhere, can't see everything, only what you can.
Orasa durut. Andro.
So happy the world is going to live, would have been crushed to see all the gnotes die with it.
Andro. Orasa durut.
Likes that you stood up for the world and spurred your way toward helping it out.
Andro.
Glad you saw the light with the myriad. They always bring a sparkliness to any day, and sometimes
Ferena masalapu. Polakuto.
they're just so shiny, makes her smile to think about them.
Andro.
But let's not speak of that now.
Asadurutu.
She has an idea where the Majut might have gone, as there's no other place it likes as much as its own corner of the open wild. She's even named it the Majut Meadow.
Pala. Kanyala notoro. Masamal.
The Majut will recognize the scent you've attracted while being here, so it'll probably trust you enough to follow you.
Aplitonumuta.
You should lead the Majut back here when you find it. It's going to take time to get it calm enough to be able to ride out to the World Eater.
Anoraka papum.
It's the most magnificent creature she's ever encountered. A creature straight out of a dream or story. This might be the end of everything as we know it. You found the Majut Meadow. Watch out for the Majut. Wow! A smart foe would leave now. Get under that sky while you still can. Get out of it.
Polakuto. Kala.
Now that the Majut is back in the pen, it seems calm, but Noko is still concerned.
Andro.
She says the Majut is still anxious, but fortunately she knows just the thing it needs to calm down.
Monibasa, asana yotpa.
The Majut once found and ate a bonbon gummy by mistake, and that the chewing really calmed it down.
Dropalo. Monibasa, pala.
She says that you should find some bonbon gummies for the Majut by the crossway. At least, that's where she found some last time.
Canoruta, ignada aldo, tukonda.
It's easy to describe. A crossway is where roads meet in a knot and merge. This one is in Sector 7J, if you're familiar with Out-of-Date's map. Cranks like these usually need to be wound to operate the dispenser. Just a few moves left. Make them count. What you see is what you get. Once it's out of the blind box, that is.
Minalagi mamuru.
With its attention diverted to the chewy bonbon gummy, the Majut calms down. But Noko is still concerned.
Canoruta, asadurutu. Minalagi mamuru.
She's relieved the Majut has calmed down, but you'll need a heavier sit-tight to ride it than the one she's got.
Kanyala notoro.
The only sit-tight she can think of that would be heavy enough is one she's spotted mounted on an old-world Mecha-Majut.
Kodotuku, Andro?
If she remembers correctly, she spotted it at the Smilo Shopperia while scavenging for treats for the Gnotes. That's not so far away.
Anora kapapom. Kanyala notoro.
Seems the old world had plenty to offer, and all in one place for those obsessed with material things. Almost too much, if you ask her. The Smilo Shopperia. Guess shopping here put a smile on your face. Isotoped. You need to line up the switches so they match. Just a few moves left. Make them count. Good. That's enough electric current to initiate the actuators and activate the framework. The mountains are closer to the sun, right? Now hold on. Sit tight. Isn't that the Mecha-Majut over there? You need to loosen the bolts without rattling the Mecha-Majut. That's it. The sit-tight is loose. Time to stop horsing around and get the sit-tight back to Noko.
Anora kapapom. Monibasa. Doma lektuku.
Now that the Majut's got a mouthful of bonbon gummy and the brand new sit-tight is in place, the Majut is ready to ride.
Minalagi mamuru. Kamonu.
Noko's been training another fantabulous little critter that'll hopefully become a distraction for the hoof puff when you confront it.
Pala, tukonda. Kamonu.
She's called them glitter moths, and the best way to find them is to go talk to Mito. She's asked him to keep them somewhere safe.
Ariaroche nui mumera.
You'll find Mito at Brightlight. He's a light-headed fellow, but hopefully he'll remember where he stored the moths.
Ferena masalapu. Deret?
She's noticed the front teeth seem to be a little loose, so you might be able to pull them out with the pull hook. This place is called Brightlight. Mito lives close by.
Uncle Boykin.
With the world getting darker by the day, there's not much time left to save it, and even though you've just met, he feels you're bound to play a huge part in that. Says there's so much darkness to deal with. Rather than curse it, he makes lamps to fight it.
Uncle Boykin.
You've found your way through the darkness. You shine like the sun in the sky, but will you use that power to warm the world or burn it? Hopes you see how much good you can do with power like that, and how easy it is to let it drive you mad. No matter where your path takes you, though, it's important to remember where you came from. The past bright lights the present. Wonders if you know how much of an effect you've had upon the world. Your presence changes things like light changes darkness. Did you realize that when choosing where to shine? Figures that doesn't matter. You can't help but shine either way. So happy you know you're helping brighten the world. There's plenty of it that's still worth saving. Whatever happens to the world, you shone as bright as you could. That matters more than you know. Says you did the right thing in taking up with the Myriad. They buy lots of his lamps. That's a tribe that believes in the bright things in the world. Claims he wasn't trying to sell you anything. Now, says he can see by the twinkle in your eyes that you're not here to talk about your allies. He assumes you are here to be enlightened. He can't blame you, as everything just feels dark and hopeless these days. There's something about you, like you're knit together. Your fate's connected. What you've said, he feels too. So, why not call him Me Too? He senses you're like the dayfly, living every day like it's your last, afraid that when night comes, it might be proved right. Claims you both walk in different types of darkness, but you guide yourself by the same light. Mito says he's not only into those who shine bright, he likes things that glitter too. He reckons you haven't seen a glitter moth, and says it's about time you did. Even though they're nesting near gone grass, they never run out of glow. Finding yourself a glitter moth would give you that glimmer of hope you need to continue all the way to the end. You really do need them alive. Dead glitter moths fade. Glitter Moth Cave is right here. That'll come in handy. That's enough glitter moths to make her plan work. She wants you to stop worrying about the paths you've ridden and focus on the inevitable road ahead, the one that leads to confrontation with the World Eater. The hoof puff is evidence of the duality of evolution, utterly beautiful and grotesque at the same time. She means that the hoof puff has had more time to eat at the root as it's been isolated in the Knoopstonies mountains. So, based on that alone, she reckons it has suffered as much damage as the northwest root that's hidden beneath the surf. It reminds her of the gnotes and, like them, it's hoofed. They're just a lot bigger. That sealed the fate of the third World Eater. Just one more to go. Out of Date asked to see you again to congratulate you and let you in on the final phases of his plan.
Agwaremba, Prewere Yonke.
This is your chance to get his priorities aligned with yours. Do right by your tribe and the world at large.
Drigenkin alat ba. What?
Just head back to the Ark. He seemed eager to see you again.
Very?
She wonders if the rumors she's heard about you finding the Ark are true.
Monibasa, Pendrine Senema.
Thinks that's impossible, of course, but she also knows you regularly make the impossible happen.
Kanamunta, Andro? Pendrine Senema.
With the world recovering, the Ark would be a wonderful way to see it, so much faster than even her favorite Gnotes.
Amun.
Loves that you did your best to help the world rather than hurt it. You could have used much more of that, even before you returned.
Andro?
Any idea who might be joining you on your Arky journeys?
So, what we have here is an opportunity to help.
Why? You don't need anyone else but yourself and me, of course, but I'm a part of you, so that doesn't count.
If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. The only one we'd want to get away quickly from here is darkness.
But you know you can't go on without me. Even if I'm bad company, I complete you.
I think we can finally agree on something. It is better to be alone than in bad company. But best of all is being good company yourself.
Kamonu.
Feels deeply honored that you'd want her to come with you. An Ark is no Gnote, but she can't pass this up. She's coming aboard.
Anarolote.
Tells you not to worry about her. She'll go straight to the Ark once she's said goodbye to all her Gnotes.
Tuluaba volio consata ghetto.
Out of Date thinks the time has come to end the conflict between the tribes. There won't be any winners in this war.
Beboko contabe.
You should know it's not too late to change direction by visiting another tribe's fort. However, it might be best to stick with the tribe you've chosen already.
Yevofo lolanofo.
He believes it'll take someone with a light perspective and ki to counterbalance the Sifu's energy in the end.
Ugambun ang ugagadye promo vufu.
Regardless of the outcome, you need to play your part and conclude the conquest. It'll be over soon.
Lua tolu tum.
Out of Date reminds you that the time has come to end the tribe war.
The wata. Evunkutu buvum.
You should pay the Ankati tribe a visit before it's too late.
Atu wamawa.
Has plenty to do, so no worries.
Brikeratna fal hutut.
They've been waiting for you. Taking control of this fort will bring peace between your tribes.
Geratna fal hutut. La fanen aginkan man.
The scouts have reported activity nearby that's worth looking into before you enter the fort.
Mus.
The plan is to fling you over the wall with a sling lobber. However, he wants you to secure a hard hat first, should anything go wrong.
Keramoti.
It's better you go and find one for yourself. It can't be too much trouble, though. It's one size fits all.
Mus.
It's time to set the rival tribe free. Inflict as little damage as possible as you make your way through to their Sifu.
What?
You need to unite the tribes and save the Tree of Life to truly become free. That's a fire starter. The dry grass looks like it would ignite easily. You just need to create a spark to light a fire. It burns brighter than the light. Get up! Finish 'em! The battering bonker looks like a great way to get through the gate. Bet you just need to knock and it'll open up. That's bonkers. The Netra tribe values liberty and is striving to protect freedom. They want to continue with each tribe being responsible for their own and believe that uniting the tribes is the only way you can survive. He was hoping it wouldn't end this way. There's no reason to fight instead of uniting. It would be fighting over nothing. He sees strength in you like no one else, but if fight is all you do, he can't stand by you. He recognizes the strength of a good argument and agrees it's for the best. He'll give up the fort to you. The rival Sifu is defeated, and the destiny of their tribe is in your hands. You are free to choose their fate, but not free from the consequences of your choice. He'll leave it up to you to decide the fate of the rival Sifu, but suggests you be merciful. Do good, and good will follow you. Thinks it's a good gesture to offer support to others when you can see that they need it. And with that, you're spinning your own fate, good or bad, never to be undone. Side by side they'll stand until order and stability is reinstituted. He's gotten news that the other tribes have realized there are no winners in this war. There's no purpose in antagonism. All three of them believe your tribe has grown strong enough to unite them. It's clear your efforts have been successful. There's light at the end of the tunnel. The tribes are tired of war and will remember the one who brought them peace, whether you decide it'll be now or later. So, do you want to end the war now or continue the crusade? He agrees. Better save your energy for something meaningful. Out of Date says there'll be consequences of the war, but there are more pressing matters at hand. The last World Eater has been left undisturbed with the tree while you focused on the war.
ja lauawat nawa.
He thought someone with your light perspective and key would have had different priorities and faced the World Eaters before resolving the tribe war.
Tuloya, vuto lulla. Far come mako to far titaba.
Regardless, Out of Date is grateful the tribe war is over.
Boyobut paigatawa.
Out of Date understands the road has been rough, but you already know what's left to end this journey, and it'll be tough.
Boyobut paigatawa. Ja, sawata mua.
You're the only one that's strong enough to face the last World Eater.
Iboda kilmok.
The future depends on someone with a light perspective to give the world a chance to survive.
Loto lu bayo.
Only time will tell what the future holds, and if it will bring a lasting peace for those that make it to the end.
Tolomawawanya.
Out of Date says the word about what you've done so far is spreading. The tribes haven't lost hope yet.
Beboko kontabe. Mauketo tul atu iamanau.
He appreciates what you've done so far, but unfortunately he's had urgent news from his friend Wiz in the northwest.
Lua tolu tum.
He's unsure about your intentions, but hopes you'll support Wiz.
Tolu keta. Ja wawanawe.
He says he'll point you in the right direction, but finding Wiz and making sure he gets what he needs is up to you. That doesn't sound good. Out of Date's hunch is real. The Merc Puff is up next.
Tolu keta. Ja wawanawe. Mauketo tul atu iamanau.
Out of Date says that Wiz is worried now that the Northwest World Eater is stepping up its activity.
Bilia antuf.
He explains that Wiz is working on an undersurf vessel in order to get to the World Eater, but needs help to get it done.
Mao toliawahu. Befarbihita huntukub kirko.
Out of Date suggests that you should head northwest as fast as possible and see what you can do to help. Toxanol's mining led to mass deforestation and increased global warming, as nature couldn't absorb the carbon dioxide and greenhouse gas emissions without the trees. These irreversible changes to the climate also contributed to the evolution and modified our genetic code. Wiz should be around here somewhere, probably taking care of his guppos. A surge surf factory was one of the cleaner ways to make power, until the surf turned into goo and clogged it all up, that is. The power comes from turning the movement of the surf into surge sparks. Sometimes science is beyond belief. Wooz isn't easy on the tongue, but I think he says he's happy to see a friendly face. Not too many of those around these days. Says it's good to see you again. He's Wiz. You might remember him from the old days when he let you try his octopod? Wiz remembers you were such a cheery kid, and he's glad to see that light hasn't faded from you, despite the years. But Wiz understands it was a long time ago, and memories get murkier the deeper you go, but says it helps to have friends with you to plumb those depths. It was a tragedy, but also sad that you chose to leave. It's a miracle you made it on the outside on your own. That land is harsh, they say. Wiz says our memory keeps things for us, preserves them until we are ready to face them again. He knows you've returned to face Lupa Lupin, and that confrontation is as inevitable as the tides. He's not surprised that the loss of your family could plunge you into the depths forever, but you've always been able to rise like a bubble to the surface, no matter what. He knows that though the tides of history may push you in one direction, you can always lay your own course. Ultimately, it's your choice. You were the one to be wronged and have lived with the consequences. He believes in consequence as it's a direct result of action.
Where's that dark now?
Too true. No one can escape the dark.
No, but you can fight it. Fight it!
Can't fight love.
Watch me.
Asks if you ever think about freedom and whether any of us really has it. Did you make the decisions that brought you here, or are you just a pawn of fate? Maybe that's true for you, but he's not so sure about his own fate. Amazed the world is going to continue on, but happy to hear it. Still so many things to invent. Impressed that you fought so hard to keep the world spinning. Thinks you were smart to join with the Myriad. They have a rainbow of ways to approach any problem. Says they're unified in the ways that matter. But that's not nearly as important as this. Wiz says that you should let the past dwell in the depths. But there's something else down there too, gnawing at the Tree of Life. He's named it the Merc Puff. This is why he's tinker-tonkering with the octopod. But the lid got stuck, so he needs a big enough tug twister to open it up and let you a-goin'. He can't leave the surge station, so you must help him find a tug twister. There's a wound-up mecha Fingro in the mecha stadium that still has one stuck on its back. Find it, and you'll find the tug twister. He found it stranded on a shore nearby and got Gizmo to help tow it here so they could get to work on it. Toxanol probably made it to go undersurf and see the damage they've caused for themselves. You need to line up the switches so they match. Good. That's enough electric current to initiate the actuators and activate the framework. Shield your eyes if the daylight hurts you. You need to loosen the bolts without unsettling it. That's it. The tug twister's loose. Let's hope it turned the grabbing hand into a helping hand, too. He believed the tug twister would do the trick, but now realizes brute force won't do the trick. You need something slick. He agrees that it's an option if you want to break stuff, but in this case you want to keep things intact, so it won't leak once you get undersurf. He says the lid should open if you sprinkle grease it. Problem is, he's all out. He knows his old friend Choo Choo always keeps his grease sprinklers well filled. He should have an extra that you can borrow.
Ni antumpo ni garapu.
He stresses that you should come back as soon as you've retrieved the grease sprinkler. The Merc Puff is crunching bark by the minute. Wiz heard he's currently stranded at the end of the line, so it should be easier to track him down now compared to when he's running rails. Choo Choo knew you would make it to him one day. All you had to do was follow the steel path. The rails might be getting rusty, but eventually they all converge on him. Claims rails are like rules. If you follow them the way you're supposed to, everything good in life can roll your way. Says you followed the rails to where you need to be, but tracks have switches in them too. The question is then, will you keep on the same track, or look for a way to hit that switch? You seem like you're on the right track already. He just hopes you don't get sidetracked onto a darker path. Whichever way you go, he wants you to know that the rails never steer you wrong. Stick to them, and they always bring you right to where you're meant to be. Wants to know if you've ever regretted taking one track in life instead of another. If you could go back, would you switch tracks or keep chugging along the one you're on? Likes your sureness, the way you keep at it like a chug-chug with no way to reverse. Seems like the world came out of its rut and is chugging toward higher ground again. Can't thank you enough for hitting the brakes and working to turn the world chug around. But let's not get derailed. Says he's surprised to see anyone this far out, but sometimes the wrong train does take you to the right station. As you can see, he didn't plan to make a stop here, but now that he had to, he's really happy to see you. He says his name is Choo Choo. He's been off track since the world started dying, but he's trained his mind to stay positive regardless of the situation. Says sometimes life runs off the rails, but it's always better when they're good and greased. He's convinced the tracks are like the paths our lives take, and you must deal with the outcome, even if you didn't lay them yourself. This time, though, he was sidetracked and needs a new wing nut to get back on track. Wing nuts are easy to find, as they're fitted on any in-front chugger-chugger out there. The challenge is taking them off, so he's happy. Says he knew you would, like he knows the way the rails run. The Wing Nut Chug Tunnel. It goes on forever. Don't stop pounding that one. Just a few moves left. Make them count. Choo Choo says he knew you'd come through. If someone makes a stop at your station, it's for a good reason, but he understands no one gets their tracks greased for free. He'd be happy to part with his spare grease sprinkler, as he believes it's a great fit for any of your business that needs to be unstuck. He keeps it safe in a box on the handcart, in case of emergency. It's on the cart. He wants to keep it close by. In general, you won't have much time to act in case of an emergency. Choo Choo says you should help yourself to the grease sprinkler. It's a versatile tool from the bygone, a last of its kind, so don't let it go to waste. He's convinced you'll put it to good use, as there are lots of stuckies out there that need greasing to open. Seems glad you think so. You're on the right rail. Choo Choo says he can't wait to get out of this place. Excited to meet someone with a bright aura. You're a rare sort these days. Wishes you'd been better as a kid, but is glad you finally figured it out. Understands you have other places you need to go. Choo Choo says he can't wait to get out of this place. We'll be around when you return. You shouldn't worry about smashing up the box. Choo Choo has no use for it now. Choo Choo says he feels strongly about helping his next, just like you did for him. He's convinced there was a bigger reason you met. Sometimes the wrong train will take you to the right place. He believes you've got what it takes to make a difference. He's witnessed it himself. Says he can't see the end of your rails, but if you grease them up good, he hopes you'll enjoy an easier ride. Choo Choo's thrilled you found the Ark. Just imagine how much faster than a chug that thing must be, and no rails needed. Bets it could fly circles around any chug yard. Makes him dizzy to think about it. The world's on the mend, so no need to leave it. But just think of all the places the Ark could take you. Says he's happy to see the Ark in your hands. Knows you'll go great places with it and do some good. Wonders who you might call aboard the Ark with you.
Why? You don't need anyone else but yourself and me, of course, but
If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go further, go together.
But you know you can't go on without me, even if I'm bad company.
I think
After spending a life on the rails, he's eager to ride the skies with you. Just let him pack his rollerboard, and he'll roll aboard. Choo Choo says he's ready to pack up and leave. Asks you not to let the Ark roll away without him. He'll be there. Wiz says that there's no plan to confront the Merkpuff until the octopod is properly armed. He knows you'll need something that packs enough boom to put a dent in that shell, or better yet, head. Pyro sticks will do the trick. He says his old friend Boom makes all things that go bang.
Urval.
There's a rumor that some of Boom's pyro sticks shot off and are out there roaming free.
Kalai rontun, Mick.
You should keep an eye on the horizon for pyros. If you're fast, you have a shot at catching some of them before they go off.
Mick J. Kalai rontun, Padrina Chala.
Boom has named the place Puff Duff Bluff. It sounds silly, but it's an accurate description considering most of the pyros are duds, seeing as they're as old as the old world. That's a bang plant, where Toxanol used to make all sorts of splody things before it blew up in their faces. That hurt 'em. The deep cut. That looks like an unbanged pyro stick on the loose. Better catch it before it goes off.
Menya vea, alikan rato.
The pyro sticks will cause a bang, but targeting is on you. At least now you have a chance to hurt the Merc Puff where it counts.
Alikan rato. Menya vea, nan.
He hopes so, as there's no Plan B, or more correctly, Plan C. Out of Date has named this Plan B. Plan A was to take on the World Eaters by foot, or flaps in this case. Turns out swimming down there was a bad idea.
Kaltendun rico iniameri. Eka eka.
Wiz has been working on another cannon, but instead of pyro sticks, it squirts guppos, scaly distractions for anyone with an appetite disorder, and irresistible for the Merc Puff in particular.
Monoyam katal ilvanto aliak. Kaltendun rico iniameri.
Seems the best way to find guppos is go talk to Gil. He has a natural sonar and knows where the guppos sub the surf.
Kan patudam.
This means you'll have to go visit Gil at Burblebottom. Find Gil and he'll be able to tell you where to find the guppos.
Mu kan patudam. Dampati nero. Kaltendun rico iniameri.
He used to run a pet shop stocked with guppos, but since they've become more difficult to find, he's diverted his attention to make them grow in numbers instead of giving them away. This is Burblebottom, residence of Gil. There are places up ahead far worse than this. Happy to finally get to meet you. He's seen a lot of things wash up on his miniature shore, but nothing as exciting as you. Claims to have been born swimming, but he must flap-flop clear of it during these dark days. It must have been upstream only to get to this point in your histo-future. But which way are you going now? With the flow or against? It's crazy hard to flipper against the surf, but you can't save the world if you let it sweep you away. Either way, it's a shame the surf has gotten so nasty. Thinks life is like trying to ride a wave. You need to pick the right one, but you don't really know which one that is until you're on top of it. Better to... Seems to him that there's always another wave coming along. Can't imagine how wonderful it's going to be to surf on gooless goo. The world is going to live. Can't thank you enough for fighting against the goo. Happy you ride alongside the myriad. They bring a real shine to everything they work with. Says they shine so bright, they glitter on the waves. But none of that's nearly as important as enjoying the day, right? He never drank from this pond because of the disgusting things done there. Even the fish stopped drinking here after the pollution made the surf mucked and the air blocked his gills. He figures the Tree of Life isn't drinking either. Or, well, that's not true. He said it does drink, as it has no other choice. It's a tree, but it's forced to drink poison. Claims the surf is poison now. Anything that drinks it becomes poison too, including the Tree of Life. His friend Wiz needs guppos for one reason or another, and Gil is ready to point you in the right direction. But here, you're only going to find dead ones. He's pretty sure Wiz wants them alive. Well, at least the ones that aren't already rotting. If you head in the right direction, you'll find a clean enough bit of surf to snag yourself some guppos. Then you can get them to Wiz for whatever he has in mind. Figures he's always been a friend to Wiz, and now he can be one to you too. This is Guppy Grotto. It really is a different world underground. You can make something from that. That seems to be enough guppos to provide the octopod with infinite ammunition. He's surprised the Merc Puff's been able to hold its breath all this time. It's just another proof of the evolutionary change caused by toxanol's contamination. Being undersurf has meant the Merc Puff has been left alone to munch on the root down there undisturbed. This means the northwest route has suffered more damage than the others. He's sure there's enough time to confront the Merc Puff, but he worries if the world has enough years left to last his lifetime, even if you stop the World Eaters. That was the last of them. You've sealed the fate of the tribe and the tree. It's time for the end game.
Gelen denken of what, Nea?
You have your destiny. Follow it all the way back to Out of Date. He never told anyone about what's next, but he's sure it involves you.
Dit woere woese hat. Gelen denken of what, Nea?
Just continue to stay true to yourself and respect others whatever happens. You've become their pride, the guiding light of the tribe.
Britta.
It's time to return to the tree one last time.
Ba loyalo to lua ba volua.
Out of Date says the signs of the end of the world are everywhere. It seems nature is preparing to take revenge.
O deno ko nunyo fobo.
The day of reckoning is coming, and you are invited. He can feel you're approaching the end date.
Ko boboye boy.
If you haven't decided whom of all like-minded, light-hearted beings you've met have earned a seat on the Ark yet, it's time to do that now.
Ko tuvon ko konvon kono. O deno ko nunyo fobo.
Then grasp your last chance to make sure Lupa Lupin stopped for good. The tree settled its score, but it left yours half done.
Mamamboso? Loma utolo. Ba yowo.
He says you need to see Lupa Lupin eye to eye one last time.
Galata fall geled not.
The Sifu is seeking revenge too. He hasn't forgotten what Lupa Lupin did, but he also wants to stop him from attacking his tribe.
Ah, guaremba.
That the world seems to survive doesn't mean he must.
Herim denken alvesse Anne, moeilijk kan frifgeld.
He hopes you agree, even if it goes against your light-hearted nature.
Britta.
There's no room for predators in the world the Myriad tribe is building.
Volop matati.
But he knows this is your fight. You should handle it. Lupa Lupin's own fear was his shackles, not the roots of the tree. It just changed him. You have a chance to stand back and let the tribe handle it. The Sifu is ready to step into the fray. Are the odds about to change in your favor? If a friend dies, something inside you dies. You can save the Sifu by making yourself a target. You're shockwaves spread when the world crumbles. This is not a prophecy, me telling you about the future. It's you shaping it. Here's a vulgar display of power. The more he does, the stronger he becomes. It's time you remember who the real enemy is and stop playing the game his way. This is how it ends. The Predator and the world itself suffering. But at least it's a sign they're both still alive.
So, what we have here is a clear matter of life and death, and only you can make a difference.
You continue to make bad decisions and mistakes. Oh, it never ends.
It's easy to make a good decision when there's only one option. The only mistake here is you.
My mistake is letting you speak. My conviction is that the world would be a better place without your voice.
Convincing yourself doesn't win the argument. In the end, we won't remember the words of our enemies, but the silences of our friends.
The weak can't forgive. Forgiveness is a strength. It's not all life and death. It's no better time than now to accept a helping hand. Do you wonder what turn life might have taken if you'd done things different? A left when you went right? A yes when you said no? You've walked the thin line between survival and disaster and haven't lost your balance yet. It's because of you the Tree of Life and the world has been given a second chance. You carried the light in a world full of dark and made a difference in a place that needed change. You allied with the Myriad tribe and acted on understanding of the greater good and a code of honor. However, light and dark does simply represent the polarities of life. One can't exist without the other. This isn't the end. Just being surrounded by nature as it heals itself will rejuvenate us. Nature will teach us how to survive. So, trust your conscience to show you the way, and everything else will follow. But you're not alone. Those that shared your perspective and gained your trust will accompany you on your journey. Is there a world out there that's better suited for those imbalanced in their light nature than this one? Whether or not, we'll leave your story on record, so those who come after will know you followed your light nature and saved the world. So, when all is said and done, it turned out to be an unusual ending after all. What could be better than ending the story the right way? Ending it your way, a beginning of something new.